Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode, another great guest. We got Hep back. For those of you who are wondering if he's still a part of the People's Guild, he is.
Still alive.
He's still alive, still kicking, staying busy. So good to have you back, Happy. Great to see you, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
And we've got the one and only Bronzedragon. Man, Bronzedragon, I gotta say, it's been great watching your. I feel like those first, maybe 500 subscribers is really slow and hard to come by. But ever since you hit that number, I feel like it was just a couple of months ago, you've just absolutely taken off. And I think last I checked, you're close to 1.2 or something like that thousand.
Yeah, I'm about 1,100, somewhere in there.
Well, it's been
yeah,
great to
you're
watch,
right.
man.
It took quite a while, but I feel like I'm building up a little bit of a head of steam. So I'll take what I can get. And I've learned a lot along the way, right? As far as you get in and start doing YouTube things and you try to pick up, improve upon what you're doing as you go forward and, put out content people want to hear. So.
Well, you've been great at doing that. And I know you've kind of extended your reach beyond Hive with, I believe it's Atlas Earth. I've yet to look into that one, but it seems like that's
it's a big game I'm playing recently. I've been having a good time with it for the last few months.
Cool. All right, man. Well, we tried running an episode with BD here a couple of weeks ago, well before we took a few weeks off. So I guess at this point, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, but had some we'll call them technical difficulties, and we're back with round 2. So appreciate you taking the time a second time to hop on and we'll get this one on the airwaves, man. So great seeing you. Great to have you back. And I guess for the listeners, welcome back for the first time, BD.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I always enjoy listening to your shows. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, so why don't you tell us how you got into Splinterlands?
Well, it was almost 3 years now, probably a little bit more than 3 years now at this point. I was mining. I had a small crypto farm in my basement, and I kind of liked the whole crypto thing. And it wasn't at the very beginning of Splinterlands. Splinterlands had already been going on for a couple of years at that point, but for some reason it crossed my radar. And I started looking into it, and I'm like, I like this idea. I like this idea of being able to play a game and also earn cryptocurrency at the same time, which was, to me, in my brain, kind of like a step up from just mining with graphics cards, right? So, and my past, I've at certain points in my life, in the late 90s, I was very into Magic the Gathering and things of this nature. So I really like the collectible card genre. So that's kind of what attracted me to it. And I was playing for about a year before I even started thinking about going on YouTube. So that's where I started in the whole collectible card thing. And I like the whole idea of, one of the hard parts of having physical cards is selling them or trading them. And you have to go track people down, and you have to sit in a musty old shop sometimes, or you have to watch out for scams online and going through eBay and things like that. And one of the things that really attracted me to the game was the fact that it was easy to sell cards. I mean, you could open packs. You got a really nice card. You wanted to sell it. You just list it on the market. Somebody wanted to buy it, they bought it. There was no muss, no fuss about it, you know. So I think that was one of the main things that attracted me as well. So
Nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think there's a good subsection of folks that, I think Magic the Gathering kind of serves as the most logical, traditional segue into something like Splinterlands. And, we've heard guys like Rogue and Deuce Crypto, just to name a couple that have really kind of found a solid home here in Splinterlands, just by the nature of, like you said, the collectible card game and having everything digitized and being able to have the marketplace. We always shit on people for leaving the game, but it's also, the flip side of the coin is that's a beautiful piece of the game, is that's always available to any of us.
yeah.
You can see what the liquidity looks like, and there's the game within the game. Shout out to 1258 for, kind of always acknowledging the marketplace as being the game, part of the game within the game. And yeah. So BD, is there some stuff, I've heard you talk about, kind of the demise of Magic the Gathering in your eyes, and I think that probably holds true from most folks who kind of grew up with Wizards of the Coast kind of running the show on the Magic the Gathering side, and then Hasbro bought them out, and things have kind of fallen apart. Is there some stuff that you kind of find in Magic the Gathering that you'd like to see realistically could be brought over to kind of spice things up within Splinterlands?
Well, I'll take that question from a little bit of a different angle, because you're correct. I loved Magic the Gathering when it was young, before like Ice Age, before it got overly complicated. Okay. And that's one of the topics that I talk about once in a while. Is I think it's a pit or a pitfall that games get into, and I don't want to see Splinterlands get into that situation. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean. I think that certain people, um, like a less complicated game like I do. And as you go along in years, a game, obviously, they have to keep putting out new products to bring profit in and everything. So they have to come up with different powers and different abilities and everything. And pretty soon, to me, it just gets over complicated and it becomes a turnoff to me. And that's what Magic the Gathering did. I was turned off from Magic the Gathering before Hasbro even came into the situation. Now, Hasbro is a different question, because I think they just bought the IP and they're just strangling it for all the profit they can get. Now, that's a different discussion. But I think my main point is, going back to your question, I don't want to see Splinterlands get overly complicated like Magic the Gathering did. And it's obviously it's talking about two different types of card games because they're played completely different. Um, as far as answering your question directly, what would I like to see taken over from? I don't know. That's a hard one to answer because they're so completely. I mean, they're the same in that they're a collectible card game, right? But they're just played different, and I would have to think about that one for a little while.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's, maybe it's as simple as an ability that lives in Magic the Gathering that could be somewhat translated into something in Splinterlands, or maybe it's a
Well,
mechanic or
one thing I really loved in early Magic was dual lands, and um, that's a land that has two casting colors, right? Mana colors, and we saw that translating into Splinterlands here a while back when they released the dual Splinter Summoners, which I had great hope for. In fact, I bought several of them, right? Um, but they didn't turn out to work as well as what I thought they were going to work. But I still have great hope for them. They do have decent versatility, but that's probably one of my more favorite ideas that I believe had root in Magic.
Yeah. Do you think they haven't worked as well just because it's a little too? Do you think that's kind of the point where it gets a little too complicated, right? Where now you're kind of looking at two different splinters and trying to find the synergies there, Or do you think it's just, that there's like, say, their lack of abilities, like them not granting abilities to your team is really kind of the biggest hindrance?
I think it really comes down to coming up with good combinations, coming up with two different splinters and certain combinations of several cards there within that ultimately work together really well. And for what reason we haven't seen that bubble to the top in the meta, I don't know. Maybe as we all know, there's just certain cards that as new sets come out, they bubble to the top, right? And they're ultimately more powerful. We were just discussing the new set of Soulbound reward cards before we started the show, and we were talking about one such card, right? And I really like to play card games when I play it and take it from just try to change things up. But there are some people that all they want to do is win, and so if it means one particular card using Olivia the Brook or whatever, all the time, that's what they're going to do. So,
Yeah, I wonder if it's something too where the dual summoners are better in theory if there wasn't as much balance in the splinters. You can kind of
yeah,
get the a certain ability or certain, unless you want to get martyr with death, you can kind of get the ability of the abilities across any splinter you want, so you can always kind of
yeah,
put together a team that you kind of want with one splinter. And then you're leaning on the abilities that your summoner is going to give you is going to give you an advantage, as opposed to maybe one splinter has a bunch of healing cards or one splinter has a bunch of immunity cards and things
yeah.
like that, where then you're blending the two and you're getting a bigger advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, earlier in the days of Splinterlands, the powers were much more, um, you could say, like, water was strong in magic or whatever. But now we're seeing so much cross pollination of all the different skills and powers available that you could, depending upon, there's still going to be certain strong colors, like if you want to play magic for a certain hand or range or something like that. And I was looking at some of the newer cards. There's a lot of new range stuff going on. So that will be increasingly easier, but that kind of dilutes the, what do I want to say, the not originality, but the, like, saying, okay, uh fire's good at this and water's good at this. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I am a little surprised that you aren't such a fan of the dual summoners. I'm looking through my battle history, and 9 out of my last 10 matches are dual summoners, and
oh, really?
I'd say 60% of them are tofu, which, by the way, we can dive into, but tofu is incredibly powerful and broken.
Well, I would agree with that, but I don't have a tofu, so
But yeah, I understand what you guys are saying, where the boundaries between elements seems to be blurred a little bit, but it does feel like the most recent reward set is kind of trying to bring that back, where I've always kind of felt like life and fire, more than any of the others, have kind of retained those original definitions, where life is very sustain driven, fire is kind of low health, volatile, quick damage, very fast. And we've seen a couple of cards that very, very clearly fit those respective niches. But yeah, for the others, it just kind of feels like, especially water, water feels like it's so powerful in
yeah.
everything these days, whether it's magic, melee, sustain. Uh, Cryptic in particular, I don't know if you've gotten your hands on Cryptic, but he is, I think, by far the favorite of the leaderboard in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
dual summoners. That exposability is just so tough to beat. It's really, really solid.
Yeah.
I wonder if do you think something like monsters with tactics, is that complicating things too much? Does that draw the game out a little bit too far?
Well, I think that what we're starting to, if you're going to go down that line, I think we're crossing the boundary into what where they want to take land with the ability cards, because I think that would be where that would come into the situation. So ultimately, what Matt's talked about, we get to a point after land 2.0, people are starting to be able to create the ability cards or whatever is available that will be played in matches. I think those will be that kind of evolution, adding different powers, and kind of spicing it up, bringing another kind of idea in my mind from Magic, which would be instants and or sorceries, that kind of idea where you can see, you pick your cards and then you can see what's going on, and then you can take that situation into account, and then you'd say, okay, I'm going to throw this in to spice things up and try to counter his whatever's going on, right? So
I wonder if I forget how Nate phrased it, but it kind of feels like the way that skins in Nate's mind are meant to work, where you could take Oceanus today versus Oceanus with the skin, and maybe the skin offers a +2 speed but a -2 magic or something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if the idea is that's an in-game call versus a pre-game call, which would definitely be along those lines of a monster with tactics.
Yeah, I've liked that idea when they started talking about that, but I always thought it from the perspective of, hey, you're going to apply a skin to a card, you're permanently changing that card. I don't know if I don't think they've really put any details behind it right yet, but you can have one Jin Oshanas that, in your example is 2 faster but does 2 less damage or whatever, and you could have one regular one and pick, you could choose either one, and the one with the skin is going to have different artwork, so you're going to be able to tell which is which, right? So
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That yeah, so to kind of create, yeah, and it gives people a reason to have extra copies of cards, right?
And you could customize your hand depending upon what the rule set is, and also what you think there's going to be a high probability they're going to throw at you. So just gives you more variables, right, to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, yeah, you're leading down the path of getting more complicated. So
Yeah, and I'm wondering, too, like if you're gonna have that, then yeah, how much is by the time we actually kind of get to that land 2.0 and get those different weapons and spells and stuff like that, like is that going to be diluted by having all this other stuff already? If it takes us a long time to get there.
yeah.
You want to add these features in, but yeah, it's kind of, or if you at that point, yeah,
Meaning some
I
of the
guess you can't
value
go
was
back.
taken away from land, trying to spice things up now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very real possibility. I think I I would hope that they're kind of thinking through what kind of items and spells will be available with, I guess it's land 2.0, land 3.0, thinking through and kind of mind mapping out what that phase of battle will look like and what kind of value will be retained with land now, and planning according to that with all these tactics. I would hope so, at least.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of thought process that's going to have to go into this, as well as testing, right? So
Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into some of the reward cards. We kind of had it slated to talk through a little bit last week, but we took the rabbit hole down Hive. For anybody that followed along, if you didn't, go check it out. Azurkhan pretty much put his hand up and said he's willing to help anybody and everybody who's willing to contribute to the Hive ecosystem through blogging, whether it's Splinterlands, personal, professional, whatever. But yeah, we've got the full gamut of reward cards now available up for grabs through the Glint shop. Are there Have you guys dabbled a good bit in the glint shop? Have you gotten any cards to a playable level, or are there certain cards that you guys are really kind of eyeballing to hurry up and get into
My
play?
cards are I've spent like about 750,000 glint, somewhere in that neighborhood. I did a video the other day where I went ahead and just got my set started, right? And I don't know, my commons are at like level 4, so they're not exactly playable yet, and my rares like level 2, and the others are, 1, 2. So it's a good foundation, and I'm working from there. I'm just trying to get a handle on some of the not just the new abilities, but the combinations of the older abilities. And I think a lot of these cards are pretty interesting myself. So
Yeah, I would
Pepe?
agree. I've started to just kind of I just did like one set of purchases. Was kind of just waiting to see, kind of what cards caught my eye, if there was ones I wanted to spend more on epics or legendaries, and just been playing around with them, using them even that I just don't have them like leveled that high, but yeah, kind of playing around. I really like the one mana cards, and how they've
yeah,
kind of introduced kind of these different like attacks. Like they have, they're not just like fodder cards, right? They're one
yeah,
mana, and they got reach, opportunity, sneak, snipes, different stuff like that. Which makes them usable in matches. And it's not just, well, I'm just going to throw a chaos agent in here somewhere because I've got one extra mana and I just want to, do something with it.
yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun. Using those, because I mean those cards are pretty much, they're usable at level 1. They don't gain too much. They gain a little bit of health, and I think once you get them maxed out, you kind of gain like an extra attack. But they're, not overpowering, but they're kind of fun little additions to work in.
Yeah, they all end up with the same stats except for they have a different power at the max level.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely haven't wrapped my head around any of the new abilities too much. Things like I did try to use, I guess I didn't even really understand the like the negative ones. And when I like first got like the water card, the shock trooper, and I'm like, oh wow, that's like
Love
pretty
him.
I
Love
awesome.
made
And
him.
I made the same mistake, Hep.
I kind of thought like, oh, he'll shock the other team too. I'm like, how is this, like, this is insane. And then I realized like I was the one taking damage. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
He is great though.
Well,
For like he's immediately playable, right? Because he comes out
yeah.
of the bag at 4
Yeah,
mana for 4
4.
magic damage, which is
But
just
is it?
I
crazy.
think I think that's the whole thing. He's overpowered for the amount of mana you're spending, but there's a big but there. I think a lot of these are in the same boat where they're overpowered. That's why you're paying less mana. That's the prime reason, one of the prime reasons to use it. As they level up, they increasingly get stronger. You're still taking the same damage. I think overall, I'm still waiting to see how people use these very well in the meta, but I think the whole idea is to get the match done quickly.
Yeah,
If you can get it done quick as possible. But I love the artwork on the shock trooper.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I used it because I had like a little league match too, and which was like probably not the right time to use it because a lot of your guys have less health. But I think I was able to have like my Dr. Blight in there. So even as my own guy was sort of killing my own guys, like Blight was at least getting like one health back every round. So he's staying pretty sustained. And yeah, the attack is powerful. I mean, you definitely want to play it in like back to basics rule set,
Oh yeah.
Jungle's favorite. That's an awesome card to kind of whip out with that four magic damage and back to basics because you eliminate that negative consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the cards that I'm kind of chomping at the bit to play, and I currently have him at level 3 is the epic Earth Thanalorian Blade with the
Yeah.
execute.
Mm-hmm.
Right now she's only got 2 damage, so it's not like she's gonna be wiping out a whole bunch of enemies and executing and trampling. But yeah, that looks like a lot of fun. I feel like Earth was a big winner in my book for these cards.
Hmm.
I think to your point, Hap, I play the Blackmore Jinx, the one mana sniper all the time.
Hmm.
I think more so than any of the others. But Earth also has the one card that I think a lot of people seem to be sleeping on and borderline poo-pooing is the rare close range Thorns Quillian Legionary Void
Uh-huh.
Bloodlust.
Exactly.
I
Thank you
love
very
this card.
much.
I love this card. I
Yeah.
and credit to the team for finally putting together the ghost card challenges because I got to play with this guy at max level, and he's just an absolute monster. You park him in the
Yeah.
back and protect from sneak. Great in brawls if you're expecting Katrelba, just wipe her out and get some bloodlust. Yeah, this card's not a heavy hitter, only swinging 2 damage to begin with, but a couple of bloodlusts and she's
Yeah,
well on her way
but
to being a monster.
it's got thorns and it's got bloodlust. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
like
love that
that.
card.
The Huntress too. I mean, that's the Halloran Huntress, like flying, the charge. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but also gets this, flying and has the snare. It's kind of like the almost like that life card. That's that 2 mana card that is it 2 or 3?
The True
Um,
Striker,
yeah, that just you end up
the
playing all the
Harpy.
time, right? Yeah, the Harpy, right? Yeah, exactly. Harpy. That, it may not look great right away, but then that's just a card you just end up playing a ton of, right? So, um,
And it's
yeah,
Little League compatible. Yeah.
right, yeah, exactly, right, yeah. So I think that's a really cool card. I'm excited to get that of the commons. That's the thing. Yeah, as a common card, I mean, it's with only 4 mana with all those abilities, the
Kind of
flying, the
feels
charge, the snare, getting
like
up to
Gladius
three
card level.
damage. What's that?
It kind of feels like Gladius card level. Because
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
top level, it gets 4 attack, 7 HP. She's a beast.
4 speed, like that's a really, really, really well-rounded card. Like that's you could have take away the flying or something, and that's still a great card, or take away the charge and well, maybe yeah. I mean, I don't know. Even with the charge, I don't know. That's yeah, it's just like yeah, that's a really solid card, I think. I'm looking forward to getting that one leveled up.
I think they have some pretty solid commons. How about that Urjack Elder? I mean, it's a neutral, right? At max level. It's got camouflage, divine shield, strengthen, and swiftness.
Mm,
It only does one, but man, talk about buffing the cards. Stick that in the back. It can't be hit. So, unless it's in the first position, obviously. But
yeah.
and it's only 3 mana.
Yeah, there's a lot of these good low mana cards. I think it's kind of strange that the neutral um one got the weary ability. And so does that only apply to that card or does it doesn't apply to your whole team, right? That was
Yeah,
one
it's
thing I
only
wasn't.
that card.
Okay. So
But
I
still,
guess
I
that's
see him more than any other of the reward cards at this point.
really.
It's just a no brainer because I've got him at level 3, so he's got
So
six
it's got the
HP.
heal.
He's got the heal, but
Hmm.
yeah,
And then
especially
where do
in
you stick them?
back
You
to
just
basics
stick them in the back.
wherever. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
expecting sneak, just toss him back there or toss him in the front for back to basics. It's a no brainer 1 mana cost for sure.
Yeah.
Worst case, he just misses a round.
Yeah. I like the I feel like Water got some pretty cool kind of tanky cards with the Commander Slade is cool and the Alpine Skink. Um the Alpine Skink, I think I want to try to get that leveled up. It's just a lot of speed, really good attack, having phase, um, and then having the shield is great, and it gets stun at max level. Just a lot of health, a lot of protection. It's a really cool card. Has anybody used Commander Slade as like a main tank yet, too? I haven't got it leveled up enough to the point yet, but I feel like it's going to be pretty good as well with the speed and the dodge that it has.
I feel like we'll probably be seeing a lot more of it with the reflection shield and how prevalent tofu is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The thorns are, I think everybody forgot and took a, maybe it was a deliberate move to forget how much of a pain in the ass thorns on everybody is. As soon as we sent
People haven't
Mylar
seen
to
Mylar in
Wilds.
a long time. Haven't
Exactly.
seen, yeah.
Yeah. But the
I
reflection
think
shield is
Commander
just so
Slade.
valuable.
Yeah, I think Commander Slade is just the definition of a tank, right? I think that if if he was a couple mana less, like say 8 mana, it would be easily an epic,
Hmm.
because he's fast speed at max level, 5 damage, 6 speed. He's got a lot of life. He's got a lot of shield. He reduces the defender's melee attack. He's got dodge. He's got reflection shield. He's got backfire. It's just the definition of a tank, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
One that I really am chomping at the bit to play, and I said this from day one. I think it was Dwayne that actually released this card, is the Arachne Weaver with the corrupted healing. Either of you guys messed
Mm-hmm.
around with that one at all yet?
I have
I have
not.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't run
Um,
into it once. I think for everybody, I think there's quite a few folks who actually pin death as their favorite element, but he's one I just haven't seen make it in yet. I think folks are probably fearful that corrupted healing is going to ruin things, but it's really powerful with 70% of max health. If you could get a couple guys with scavenge out there, and he turns the whole team into pretty big HP pretty quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if it's really useful in something like a scatter shot match. Like almost like a high mana one where you just have like a lot of health to kind of work with.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
It'd
try
be
it out.
interesting to see how these cards pan out in the meta. What about the downside of these reward cards, guys? Because we were talking for a long time about how this next set needs to really rely heavily upon Rebellion and should be, pushing for revenue to be generated through Rebellion cards, leaning really heavily on the abilities in Rebellion. Um, I feel like that mark was missed. I don't really. I feel like it's pretty standalone. There's not a whole lot of opportunity for weapons training to be taken advantage of with these cards, for example, or none of the summoners I really kind of popped out to me in terms of, hey, this card would be really really great with uh XYZ summoner. um what's y'all's take on that? Do you feel like we kind of missed the mark there? Do you feel like I'm being a little bit bearish on the situation? Did Call Me Tim actually serve it up as expected, or as he should have?
It's an interesting question because whenever I was preparing for this episode, I was just looking over the cards and just taking in the various powers and the combinations of powers. And, the one card that stood out to me that I said, wow, that would go great with weapons training is a common, the Nimble Duck Explorer, right? Um,
Oh,
it goes great. It's got protect, it's got armored strike, it's got healing, but it doesn't have an attack, right? So, but back to your question, I don't know. I don't know. I think that remains to be seen. I think this is a very interesting set of cards. I think that there's a lot of combinations of skills and powers that we haven't seen before, and I think they're trying to, I don't know, provide um, some extra firepower against certain types of decks that have become or certain kinds of hands that have become almost meta in the past, trying to make up well, this got really powerful. Let's give them a few cards over here to kind of combat that in a smattering all across the set. So
Nimble Explorer is a great card. We should have talked about him. He's of course life, but yeah, great call. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could like a lot of these cards are great, right? I think um a lot of these cards, you could kind of fit them in anywhere. I agree that they don't really rely on the meta that was kind of created by Rebellion, but it's got a lot of good. I was kind of blown away by a lot of like good back row cards. Apart from the couple we just talked about in that in water that are kind of tanky. It's like, you have that death card that's maybe a tank. I don't really know what that 1/6 mana, the Jurok Brave. I'm not really sure where he fits, how he fits in. Unless you have, a poison match that death is the only splinter you can play. But yeah, so I was kind of I really like that. It seemed like it was cards that were very good at, being in the back row and being some support cards, a lot of opportunity cards. Um, so yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, I think you can really talk about how any of these cards are really good, or like maybe like 90% of them are really good. Um, but yeah, I agree with you in that it doesn't lean into the rebellion, but it kind of does just create like an overall good set of rewards cards. There's nothing that seems. I mean, I guess we should talk about Olivia the Brook. I mean, I guess that mimic is the ability that seems like it might be a little broken. But we don't see anything like we saw with the Chaos Legion rewards cards, right? Where there's, except for death, everybody's got like a martyr card, and you have like the Izzy R's that are just kind of like really sucking
That's
up a lot
twice
of
in
the
this
meta.
episode. Let's get a tally going. How many times can we call out death for still not having a martyr card? That's two.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, it's almost like I just need to move on and accept the fact that like life and water are going to get the best cards. Um, and so yeah, I mean it's you don't see. I mean, I guess I haven't seen. I've been playing a little bit. I'm not up towards the top. So I haven't seen the Olivia the Brook used yet, but I guess you guys have. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and Mimic. And I didn't understand it, I guess, when we were talking about a little bit earlier. I thought Mimic would steal an ability, steal one ability, or even if it stole a second ability, it would kind of change it. I didn't realize it was something that stacked, and so that you could have multiple abilities. Yeah, are there any other cards what other cards have it? Is it just that one, or are there other
It's
ones that
just the
get it?
one.
So that's the
Just that
only
one.
card that has it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And that's pretty crazy.
And it's on an epic, not a
Yeah.
legendary.
And it's dual attack. So
Yep.
Yeah, she's just a great card. And of course it was on, you already called out life as being the beneficiary of a lot of great cards in this set. And I think Rebellion life in general was one of the big winners.
well, even the
But yeah,
back end of Chaos Legion. I mean, like you look at like they got Immortalis,
or
Izzyar, like
inevitable.
Inevitable. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just got some really, really, really awesome cards.
Yeah, so there's been a good chunk of talk around Mimic and the way that it works as being potentially broken. There has been some pushback around, of course, people are going to find something to complain about where, oh, I spent a bunch of my glint on epic card draws specifically so I could get Olivia the Brook. If Mimic were changed, I wouldn't be doing that. But at the same time, like it's
Yeah.
magical glint money. Give me a break. You're not
Yeah, I
spending.
don't buy that though because I mean I know that they'll pose that argument, but all these games, all these card games, even we were talking about Magic the Gathering earlier, they nerf stuff. They take stuff out of rotation. They say that certain cards can't be played. So and the game, they always say that they retain the rights to modify whatever's in their game. So if they find something that's broken that they deem as broken that is it's broken then they have the right to change it, so there's none of this, oh, I bought the card, you shouldn't change it.
Yeah, we've
I feel
heard
like
that,
if it's
from the team though, that they don't want to do that, and I know they have done that in the past, and I think they don't want to do that. Like you said, Jingles, maybe it's different because this is not a card that people have gone out now and spent money on. But I don't know. Like they've constantly said, like, oh, we just want to find ways to balance it out by introducing other stuff instead of,
Yeah.
nerfing cards. But what you guys were describing me earlier seems like how did this not get caught in play testing almost immediately and
Yeah.
realize that it's out of control, right? And if Mimic has this ability, why couldn't it be limited to just getting one, or I mean maybe there's you feel like you should be able to do that, right? They should be able to like it's only going to take one ability or one at a time or yeah, I don't know. It
Well,
seems like to be able
it
to
is
get
one at
stacked
a
like that.
time, but if she's on a life team that has Iziar and multiple resurrects and void armor, she can live until the 20th round, and that's 20 abilities that she's
Well, I
picked up.
meant like not. I meant one. Like if you take a new one, you'd have to replace the first one.
Oh, right.
Like you can't have more than one. You know what I mean? You could either be like, if you as soon as you get one, it stops, or if it then goes to take another one, it's going to replace the one it had. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple of ways that they can kind of balance it out. One would be to allow for her to pick up the negative debilitations. If all of a sudden you're burning your own team, or you're shocking everybody on your own team, or you're the corrupted healing, you're taking max health away from folks, or dispel gets the buff to remove everything like it does with bloodlust.
Mm.
Because right now it works, you're taking away the most recently acquired ability versus wiping the slate clean and taking her back to just the
Mhm.
reflection shield and mimic base stats. But I think the
Maybe you can make it so
25% is,
cripple takes it all away.
yeah,
Get the
something,
downs out.
man. Uncle Dallin, Grandpa Dallin needs the buff, dude.
That's
You've been calling for the martyr on death almost as long as I've been. I haven't spoken that name in quite a while, and I was actually looking the other day. I don't think I played Dallin in like 6 months. It was sad.
Oh man. Well, and they also that new rewards card. What was it? The Broken Earth Thug, which is a cool little card too, right? 3 mana opportunity. Has a decent attack. They gave that cripple at like level 4. So it's like, yeah, it's just it's
More away from
that's the
Dallin.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what I would like to see is Olivia LeBrook only gains, maybe she has a 10% chance to pull an ability for a successful attack or being subject to an attack. I think the acquisition of the abilities and and the subsequent ability of dispel to remove the abilities, I think that needs to be balanced a little bit, and it needs to happen quickly because the proposal that we put out to make the Rebellion Soulbound cards sellable from day one, it passed, and Matt did say the team's going to honor that. So before too long, those cards will be available on the market, and I think that's when the conversation changes to a place where we need to find an appropriate counter versus fixing the ability.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and also just to clarify, sorry, I well obviously looked at all these abilities, but so she can take an ability in between rounds, and then also if she gets hit, she takes an ability with Mimic.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that should be just. I feel like if you did it just when you got hit, then at least like the only time it could happen is when you're taking damage.
Yeah. So okay. So
Yeah,
at the beginning of round two and each following a round, gain a random ability from the enemy. Oh, so that's guaranteed. 100%
yeah,
chance.
100% chance. Yeah, and
25%
25%.
chance. 25% chance to gain a random ability from an attacker when hit. Maybe it
Okay,
should be turned around. 25% chance to gain an ability each round and 100% chance to get an ability when she's attacked. I feel
or
like
just
even that would be more balanced.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like just having it when you get attacked, like even if it's up to like 50 or something like that, or 75% or 80%, to just
Or
be able to
100%.
snag a random ability in the middle of a round seems like that's unnecessary. Yeah, especially with all everything else that card has going on. So
Yeah, I
Well,
think it
so
would be still a fairly strong card if you just took out the part of the automatic power at the beginning of round 2, and then you had 25 or 50% chance of getting a random power when you attacked or was attacked, something like that. That would still be a strong card, right?
Yeah.
it's still an
Yeah, that's why.
opportunity with magic and melee. Like it's a great card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And reflection shield.
And reflection shield. Yeah.
Yeah. So Royal Eagle posted a screenshot and she's got reach, return fire, amplify, dispel, enrage, affliction, poison, flying. And then with Tofu, you could give her thorns,
Snare.
snare, scavenge,
That's
triage.
crazy.
It's
That's
just
crazy.
I I'm with you, man. I don't understand how, and this is a separate part of the conversation we can dive into. I don't understand how it passed playtesting and somebody didn't say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of fun, and I agree, it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, like we've got to pace ourselves into the power creep. We can't just throw, what maybe Olivia isn't as broken as she looks on paper, and I think she is, but some people say, oh, it's still early days, maybe not. But what about the next monster that gets Mimic? If Mimic doesn't change and it operates on a legendary, or it comes in as a legendary tactic ability for Dragon Summoner, for example, what about that? Like if you could toss Mimic on Rage or something like that, all of a sudden it's a really
Yeah.
big problem.
Okay, well, let's look at this from a different angle, right? Okay, so what's the
Yep.
play against Olivia? What's the
Scattershot.
play? What's the play? Scattershot?
I mean, because she's on life and because of Tofu, you've got Iziar, who's I think arguably the most sustainable taunt in the game.
Mm-hmm.
With the resurrects, with the armor repair, with the triage that comes with life. And now Tofu, you've got the slip spawn also available, which is possibly number 2 for the most sustainable taunt in the game. So
Mhm, yeah.
she's just buying time, picking up abilities. So maybe it's a scatter shot, maybe it's Venka, and hope that somebody plays Olivia next to Iziar in hopes of capturing the martyr, and you can trample from Iziar into Olivia. I don't know.
That's a lot of hope. We're going back to
It's
a lot of
RNG.
hope
Yeah.
in the RNG. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the counter is. Thorns, but that's until she gets reflection shield.
Reflection shield, yeah.
Retaliate. But the best counter would be the Dumaki Orc with Wraith, because she's got magic. Who and the Orc does have retaliate, but again, you're still hoping on
Yeah.
the RNG from the retaliate to trigger. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The best counter is call me Tim fixing Mimic. That's the best counter.
Well, it'd be like one thing too if this thing had like 2 health, right? But like getting up to like 5 health pretty quickly and then 6 health at max, it's like, yeah, you would the good counter, like you said, would be like a scatter shot, something that could take it out right away, but you don't really have that as an option, right? Because you're never going to be playing it where someone's going to be able to do one hit that thing and it's gone.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Mimic needs to be fixed. And that's kind of along the lines. I can read my question here that I put in Town Hall. Yaba did respond. I said, why was the Rebellion reward set not built to lean very heavily onto Rebellion, forcing modern players to buy into the set and generate revenue that way? We've had a great conversation with Call Me Tim, have a lot of respect for what he's trying to do, but having seen his work come through in the Rebellion promos and core set, the summoners, the abilities, I'm not convinced that he knows he's creating game-breaking meta, Grim Bardoon, Cryptic, Mimic, while also delivering underwhelming supplemental stuff, with many of the cards gaining just 1 HP at max level. With that in mind, my final question, would the team be open to a DAO elected group similar to the SPS treasurers of player testers to help scope the future of the game and ensure power creep is balanced and fair, fully acknowledging that it is inevitable? So that's what I posed. Matt, did respond, and a couple of people chimed in that, that's exactly what the Mav server used to grant access to, was player testing and feedback and balancing, and essentially accelerated focus group on making sure that all this shit was reined in, and if things felt too broken, they would be rehashed and re-released for testing, which didn't happen with any of Rebellion as far as I know. And definitely didn't happen with the most recent reward set. People seem to be receptive to the idea. I don't know if the elected gaming commission, or whatever we would call it, would be the right answer, but I think player testing needs to happen, and that feedback loop needs to be much more present and apparent, in my opinion.
Have they addressed why they didn't run that through Mavs like they have with previous sets?
No.
Yeah. Maybe they're just sick of Mav. Sick of everybody's opinion in Mav chat.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, I do hope it gets fixed. I feel like it's setting a dangerous precedent. But in general, I'm with you. I think the cards are fun. It's going to shake things up, and especially for like the Rebellion only tournaments, there's suddenly a lot more options to be played. One ability that I didn't really understand how it operated until very, very recently, within the last couple of days, is the what's it called? Wing break or something?
Yeah.
The one that attacks. And it ignores camouflage, it ignores Lily, it ignores taunt, which is crazy. So
I didn't realize they ignored that much stuff.
It completely goes around. And logistically, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, how do you camouflage a dragon in the sky? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's a great card. That dragon epic is pretty fun.
Yeah, some of the epic cards, I'm not sure how they're not like legendaries. That was Olivia was one of them, and that was another one where you're just like, wow, that's pretty. I guess it's got a lot of mana cost. But yeah,
It is
that card's pretty
11.
gnarly. Yeah.
11. Yeah.
Yeah. But still.
But it's also got Last Stand.
I forgot about that. Yes.
So it's got, at max level, it's got Flying, Wing Break, Reflection Shield, and Last Stand.
Reflection Shield. I think, do you guys want to make a prediction on the have you guys run into Tofu a lot yet? Do you see your bot running into Tofu a lot?
No, I don't. I play lower level than what you do, though. So I'm in Champ 3, but usually just a little bit, back and forth in that area. Most of what I see, of course, I'm playing in Wild. Most of what I see is still the Chaos Legion summoners, to be frank, and the rewards, Chaos Legion reward summoners.
Yeah, I don't know if the bots have kind of caught up to that, to be honest. Yeah, you see that's what, and like I'm in basically, I haven't gotten to play as much, so I'm kind of in gold, low gold. I think I'm in gold 3 in modern right now. And yeah, my issue is that I'm kind of hitting basically, actually starting to kind of actually see some gold level decks, but you don't really see anything but Chaos Legion and Max Chaos Legion stuff, I think, at least until you get up into Diamond and Champ. I very rarely see Rebellion cards when I'm playing in modern. Because I'm gonna hit a bunch of people with max level Chaos Legion stuff and get bounced back down from that before I start to see people who have also Rebellion stuff. Like I don't even know. Like I don't even know if anybody but the people who are playing in Champ really have Rebellion cards, right? I mean, I don't know. I just see tons of Chaos Legion stuff.
I don't see a lot of it.
Yeah. And if it makes sense, right? Like why you see
every
a ton
battle
of it?
I see it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean you're playing at the top of the leaderboard,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna see every card. So
well, I think that tells you the spread of the people at the top invested in the game, right? Bought plenty of the cards. They saw the cards that they want to play, the meta cards or whatever. Some people buy them all, right? And maxed them out so that they could play them. And that's where you see them. I think down through the rest of the leagues, well, they're not really leagues anymore, but the levels, you don't see them as much. But obviously, you're going to see them a little bit more in modern than, and I hardly ever see any over in wild. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
I
why wouldn't you just, why would you spend the money on rebellion cards when it's cheaper and you're better off just maxing out chaos, getting maxed out chaos?
Yeah, they're better value. Yeah. I do see sometimes I do see sprinkling them in when I play my brawls, but and it's fun to play because then I have to stop and I'm like, okay, what is this?
Hmm. Well, yeah, I don't know what is the, I've heard some people, I think Aftersound posted a video not too long ago talking about the idea of trying to expedite the exit of Chaos Legion from modern, which would then, number one,
That
drive value to Rebellion. Number two, it would remove the very cheap entry level or entry ramp into modern through max Chaos Legion cards for a fraction of the cost that it costs to play Rebellion. At first I was kind of dismissive, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think he's probably spot on. We if you're seeing nothing but Chaos Legion stuff in gold, imagine all of that disappearing. And I mean, I would have to assume that you would jump pretty quickly to diamond if Chaos Legion was removed.
Unless there's absolutely no liquidity at that point.
exactly.
Unless now the only people I can match up with are you and everybody else who's got max level everything decks, right? Like that's, is it going to be me playing that in there or people with like bronze level rebellion stuff? Is that going to be the difference? Like if you're looking at the cost of entry, I mean, I don't know. I get it in theory, but that it's also, we've eliminated the league tiers, right? So it's just created this giant split. And, I see this too, because of with the swings in the rating system, right? Like I'll go up a lot against a lot of bronze people still if I'm in silver, I'm not really seeing, it's swinging upwards in the gold because there's just the people who are up higher. And yeah, I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't, I think I would just be, I think I would definitely, I still played wild a decent amount because I like wild. I think I would move to just manually play wild because I don't think I'd stand a chance in playing modern. I just don't think the liquidity would be there. I think I'd just be getting crushed.
This has been a talking point of mine a few times, and I don't want to like overly beat it to death or whatever, but I think that when Chaos Legion cycles out, it's going to have a massive impact on the game. And I can understand the idea of wanting to drive value to the rebellion set and everything like that, but the game as a whole and the direction we're driving to try to bring a new players into the game and a large amount of new players, we're trying to solve the idea um, of making several of the hurdles to get into the game a little bit smoother. One of the hurdles would be obviously card prices. And I do know that you can rent and such. And recently they've introduced it, made it a little bit easier to rent if you wanted to rent a whole set, right? But if somebody comes in and we've went ahead and the Chaos Legion has gone, there's no cheap cards to buy. And now all the cards are expensive. Yeah, the people that own those cards are like, yeah, my cards are expensive. But then the new players are like, yeah, I'm not spending $1,000 to get in this game.
Well,
So,
okay, so if you imagine maybe say 2/3 of modern is made up of predominantly Chaos Legion decks. If 2/3 of modern disappears, what happens to the SPS pool? If all of a sudden I'm earning, so in a battle this morning, I made 33.5 SPS. If all of a sudden that jumps to 60, 70, 80 SPS per win, at current prices, that's north of 50 cents. If I'm earning 50 cents per battle and I'm a good player, I'm playing 25 matches a day, I'm winning 60% of those. The math starts to present a pretty compelling argument as to why you should be playing in modern. I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
that's enough to push people over the line to get there, but
once the cost of entry is above a certain point, though, you're just going to be, people are going to be excluded regardless of what the potential return could be, right? Because if you don't have the money or you're not willing to commit a certain amount of money to even get in to the game, then you're just not going to do it. Or you're going to look to invest that money elsewhere. You're going to look to spend your money elsewhere, even if the returns might not be as good because you don't have as much risk involved, right? And you talk about renting cards, like, can you even really rent? Like, how many rebellion? Like, if you wanted to rent a full set of rebellion cards, like, how many full sets of rebellion cards are on the rental market these days? Like, last time I checked, it was make 10.
Yeah.
Like it was like, it was very small, and and like you said, yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if the SBS pool gets jacked up, then I don't know. The people who already invested and already have a ton of SBS are going to get a ton more SBS, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just the cycle like that. And I don't have anything against it. You put a lot of money into the game, you make a lot of money, right? But what I'm trying to look at is the problem of we need to bring more people into the game, right? And we've already been in the situation where there wasn't enough match liquidity, so they had to come up with a situation of making out some bots and putting the bots into modern to bring more liquidity, especially at the lower end, right? But um, I seriously think that when Chaos Legion leaves, there's going to be that problem is going to be exacerbated, right? You're still going to have the people at the top end who have bought all the sets and are playing for the top of the leaderboard, but what about the rest of the game, right? So
Yeah, and they
so in
seem
your kind of
unwilling to
ideal,
negotiate on lowering pack prices. Like that seems like a non-starter. So, um, yeah, um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, in kind of y'all's ideal way of the future panning out, do we make the significant? I mean, I think for all intents and purposes, the current plan is marketing push happens this year. It
in
sounds
the
like we're
fall,
not
yeah.
getting the next core set until at least uh the first half of next year. So
When
that
did he
gives
say he was
us
going to put out that mini set?
that was another part of my question that I put in the town hall.
Mm-hmm.
Evidently, Matt's gonna put it to a proposal.
Okay.
So he
Oh
says,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they are going to
uh,
do a mini set now?
yeah.
well, he's planning to submit a DAO proposal to let the community decide if they would like a mini set or not. If not, then maybe instead we shoot for the next major set to come out in the first half of 2025 instead of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so on the short end, that gives us maybe 6 months of Chaos Legion staying in modern. On the long
Yeah.
end, a year. Um, do we make that big marketing push and try to encourage folks to buy into modern now while the prices are palatable through something like Chaos Legion, or do we try and time it with the markets? Like I just don't know what is the ideal,
I
because it would be a pretty sour taste in your mouth if you come in, you spend $700 on a max Chaos Legion deck, you could play it in modern for a few months, and then
yeah.
all of a sudden it's useless in modern.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it all depends upon all the work they're doing on improvements. What we've been hearing about the new player or the player experience, they've been slowly adding things to the game that have come out that I think are going towards that goal. But they still have several big improvements that they are going to launch, and I think that well, Matt said it a few times, that after those are launched and are in place, then they're going to start the marketing push. Because why start the marketing push to bring a bunch of new players in if you still have these hurdles, that makes it tougher to get people started, right? So
What do you think, Hippie?
Yeah, I agree with you that it would be tough to kind of make that big of a push because a lot of people are going to come in, and I mean if you get a lot of people coming in, right? If you get a lot of people coming in, you're going to get a lot of people who wouldn't don't understand right away the modern and wild formats, the timing of the sets and things like that. So yeah, I feel like you would get a lot of people who would probably spend a bunch of money on Chaos Legion stuff and then be really upset when, a couple months later they find out that they're not going to be able to use those cards in modern.
Well, to be
Anymore.
real,
So
that would have to be part of the new player experience. That would have to be one of the items that would be explained, right? The
yeah.
difference between, because he said they're going to be funneled into modern, but the difference would have to be explained.
Maybe we've heard the argument in the past where wild should be the training ground, which makes sense. I mean, you look at the card market, Rebellion is by far and away, with a few exceptions, Alpha, a couple of untamed summoners, but otherwise, wild cards are the place to affordably enter the game.
Yeah.
And I expect that trend to continue with Rebellion. I mean, a lot of it remains to be seen with what Rebellion looks like post conflict. We got what 6 weeks, 7 weeks left of conflicts, and no news of conflicts to continue beyond that. And it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, what happened. A bunch of people have extra cards staked on wagons. A bunch of people have a shit ton of packs staked on wagons. What
Yeah.
happens to the market once conflicts start to wind down? And when do
Yeah.
people, I wonder if we start to see people front running the end of conflicts, toward in that final conflict 30-day cycle, people start to pull out trying to beat the market and just say, hey, I'm going to buy the extra copies of whatever the dragon summoner is with my profits, but I would rather
Or if you've
sell
got enough
high.
stake to get what you need within half the time, right? Like there's probably people who
Also
have,
true. Yeah.
I mean, I bet
Also true.
Azracon's got plenty can get a max copy or what five of
Probably in the first
within
week.
within a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's
Yeah.
a good point. I think that once we get to the point where the last airdrop is done, then you're going to see a lot more liquidity hit the market, right? I mean, to me, that's just logical. Um, because there's one of two things you can really do with it. You can go ahead and take all your stuff off of your battle wagons and you can use it to beef up your deck, right? Or if you're in a situation where you don't really need to beef up your deck, then you could trade or sell it, right? And either way, I think we're going to see a lot more liquidity on the market at that point, which compared to how it has been, any more liquidity would be better.
Yeah. No, I was looking at the tofu, and it's like I couldn't even get like a level. Like I think I got two off the wagons, and I think there's only like three or four on the market. Um, so like yeah, I'd have to buy all of them to try to get myself to like a gold level summoner there. So
Yeah.
Do it. Tofu
we'll
is so
see.
good, man. Tofu is
I
filthy.
don't need it. I don't need it. If I needed it, I would buy it, right? Like I don't need it. Like I don't need it. I don't. I will get it. Like I'm hoping to get it when conflict ends. I think there'll be more, like you said, more cards and prices will come down. And
Yeah, I looked it up. There's exactly 5 copies on the market right now,
okay, yeah,
between $31 and $35.
Whoa.
yeah, this is pricey.
Single
Yeah,
BCX?
yeah,
Yes, sir.
Holy moly. Well, the market is
That's why I don't have a tofu.
yeah.
that would explain it. Jeez.
I should
I
probably
haven't
actually. I'm
looked.
probably actually gonna just list mine and then
Buy back in later.
hope the price comes down. Yeah.
Do you have the rest of the summoners, Happy?
I don't. Let's see. I don't have cryptic yet, and that's what I'll do if I can sell my tofus is buy the things of cryptic I need. I have the See, I'm pretty sure I have all the other ones though.
Lorcus and the squirrel.
Oh no, I don't have the squirrel. I do have Lorcus. I like my Lorcus. Used a lot. I did not get Dark Squirrel. I have, yeah, same sort of thing where I have two BCX of that, just that I got off from the conflicts. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I want the squirrel that much. Um, I don't know. I don't play fire a lot. I feel like I don't love giving those abilities to Earth as opposed to using someone else. Especially with tofu out there. Well, I'm waiting on that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the
The
price comes
True
down on that
Strike
one.
is a game changer. Like
Yeah.
opportunity rule sets, the True Strike with the dry bone raider plus
Mm.
the one ranged attack. Yeah, it's just
Hmm.
nonsense.
Yeah.
How about you, BD? Which of the summoners have
The
you
only
taken the plunge
one
on?
I ended up getting off of the airdrop was the Squirrel Riskrell Drath. I got one BCX. Haven't bought any more. I can see where it would come in handy, but I kind of fall in the same boat as Hep. Some of these prices I just really have to look at, and I'm like, I was really thinking about, during our discussion, you're talking about tofu and everything. I'm like, oh, let me jump in there and see how the price is. And I'm like, oh, that's the reason why I don't have one.
30
But
bucks,
yeah,
man. That's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
So obviously at one BCX, I don't really play it that much. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all these bronze, we've seen a lot of new abilities, especially with the rewards
mhm.
cards, kind of dumped a bunch of, new abilities on us. And, we kind of started off the episode talking, you were saying how you didn't want to see the game become too complicated or overly complicated. Um,
Are we
after
already
playing
there?
around with some of this stuff, yeah, do you think that we're getting there, or how do you feel, and kind of with that, as you're kind of one of your fears of the game, how do you feel about all these abilities and sort of all these new ones that have come out at once with the rewards cards?
Well, I'm of let me say this. I can understand why they're doing it because all kinds of card games do this in the past. They have to continue to bring the game forward, introduce new things so people have the objective want or desire to buy new cards, or in this case, to play the game and earn the new cards. I understand that part of the business, right? But as far as a player goes, to directly answer what you say, I think we're borderline getting to that overcomplicated point, especially as we were talking about, in the future. And I like to talk about this because I've invested in land, and the creation of cards in the future, as far as spells, will further add more complexity. So, it's a tough balancing act, I guess. You got to obviously bring more money in for the company. It's a business, right? But at the same time, some people, maybe I'm in the minority. Who knows? Maybe I'm just an old graybeard. But even whenever I was younger, it drew me off of Magic the Gathering, the same thing, right? So, and I had thousands of dollars worth of Magic the Gathering cards. So that's a different discussion.
You still have those cards, or were you able to
No,
sell them?
and
Did you
that's what the
sell them too
discussion
soon?
would be about. The the
Yeah.
the, the reason why I shouldn't have sold them.
When did you get into Magic? The beta
I got
days,
in
unlimited
Magic.
days.
I got into Magic at Revised, and
Okay.
I left about Ice Age. Um, and
Oh, that
after
was
Ice Age, things just got
that,
increasingly um,
that's a
more
pretty quick
complicated.
window, isn't it? Just a few years.
It was a few years, but in my lifespan, in my lifetime, that was my early 20s, early 20s, I guess. And it was just a time period in my life where that was a big thing. And with Dungeons and Dragons, same type of thing. And I just liked how the sets came out and how there was a good space between them. There was one set that came out a year, you could count on it. And when it came out, everybody was waiting in line for it. And, now it's just, the companies buy up smaller companies, and then they take those IPs and then they just wring every single thing out of them. And I'm looking at you, Hasbro. Yeah, I'll just stop there.
Uh, yeah. So is it have you looked at Magic since and seen like Arena and the
I
Planeswalker
have,
stuff and
and I've played the video games, and I've played online as well. And I dip back and forth. This several months ago, there was a Lord of the Rings expansion that I got back into, and I went down and played some matches and stuff like that. But um, they're releasing expansions every 3 months now. And it's just, you can't. Same thing. The discussion points exist with Splinterlands as well. The same discussion point is that if you have new sets occur too quickly, people can't build their cards up fast enough, and will not have enough experienced value. So you have one set comes out. Yeah, even at the top level, people that throw a lot of money into the game would get tired of that quickly as well, because you have a set and you're like, oh, I just spent like $4,000 or $5,000 maxing this out for play, and then 3 months later there's another set. Oh, by the way, that $3,000 you just spent in another 3 months, that's going to be out of Modern, right? That kind of thing exists in Magic right now, and it's a different. They use different terminology, but basically the same idea. You can only play certain sets in certain type of matches and tournaments and stuff. So,
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
No, I
interesting to
do
think
I
about
do
too,
like the idea
because
of. Oh, sorry, Hippie. What'd you say?
I was saying it is interesting to think about it that way too, right? Because you have like all these cards, jangles like you had with Almo, cards that, even if you spend a lot of money on it, if you use it for a long time and you use it a lot, and you become emotionally attached to it, and feel like you really like it. Um, you kind of don't really care as much about, what the value is at the end of the day. Like also use my Dr. Blight, and like, yeah, I probably spent, way too much money for my Dr. Blight, but I don't regret it because I've used that card a ton, and always had it. And even though I probably spent like 60 or 70 BCX for it or whatever my average was, like it was worth it at the time because it was great to have. And, I loved using it. So and I've had it for, for forever, it feels like, because it's probably had it for almost as long as I've been playing the game.
Yeah. Something we haven't talked about, and you mentioned the Lord of the Rings set, and I know the One True Ring or something like that was
yeah,
the one of one
yeah,
Post Malone.
yeah.
Eventually, I think we'll reach out to old Posty and see if we could get him on Splinterlands. That would be a huge catch. But that
Wow.
sort of extreme scarcity being introduced into Splinterlands, I think there is something I think a lot of folks have kind of forgotten about is the collector aspect of Splinterlands, and the folks that do want to be able to have a full and complete, very rare, gold foil collection. And if we're churning out sets like Hasbro and Magic every 3 months, that's just going to be an impossibility, and it kind of loses the sense of wanting to collect because it's just flooded, right?
Over dilution. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we heard Matt talk about the idea of an auction style card, maxed out legendaries, I think 100 copies, and
Yeah.
each day there's going to be bidding, I believe, in vouchers. I could be wrong. Maybe it's DEC. It might be DEC. Maybe it's TBD. I don't know. Some acronym in there.
I
Uh,
remember them talking about it, but I don't remember which one it was going to cost.
Yeah, but the point is that's introducing that extreme scarcity, right? If there's only 100 cards of this card ever going to be produced, they're all max copies.
Yeah.
That's that's a really cool concept and something that I think we should try and embrace a little bit more. Maybe it's an extreme, I don't know, platinum foil, which is a one of one of every single card in the game sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that come to the game, and I hope that they offer. Again, shout out to Aftersun. I think he called out the idea of putting minting numbers on each
Yeah.
of those hundred cards. So the one of
Yeah.
100 is going to be more valuable or more desirable to certain folks than the 100 of 100. Um, so I hope they're taking notes over at Team Pretoria, and I expect them to deliver something pretty cool with that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few different people talk about this whole idea of the minting numbers. I think KGM Jam and maybe Gathering the Magic did a few episodes on that, but the whole idea that other platforms, other NFT platforms use for various pieces of art is put the numbering on it. That makes it rare. So some people, your lucky number might be 13. So you want to go in and you want to get number 13 of the card. So you're going to pay extra, right? Or something like that, you know? So it's definitely something people pay for, and they're definitely collectors. It's just, it remains to be seen. I have no problem saying that if there's only 100 copies, they're going to get sold out. But how much actually is burnt in that process? Obviously, it's a burn mechanism, right? Which could only help as well. So
Yeah. Something else we haven't talked about is the unbinding of the
yeah.
soulbound cards.
Mhm.
I think we just passed. We must have. I haven't seen the update in a couple of days, but I think we must have passed the 100 million DEC burn mark.
Yeah. All you have
Spent.
to do is look at splinter cards and look at that graph right in the middle and look at that cliff. It just goes the DEC liquidity supply cliff. And that explains it right there.
Oh wow.
Nice. Well, it's
Have you
good, man.
guys
We haven't
unlocked
had
any cards?
one, two. I unlocked
I
two, but none for me.
I unlocked some extra summoners I had on my primary account, and
Mhm.
I shifted them over to my secondary account so I could use it to beef up my summoners over there a little bit. And
Okay.
that's all I've done thus far.
I did buy one BCX of a gold foil Sentry, Coastal Sentry. I was
Yeah.
sitting on one BCX shy for probably 2 months, and I couldn't pull that that one card. Uh, Probably wasted way too much glint and have way too many copies of a bunch of cards I don't need. And I still
Everything
don't,
else.
I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with them. Like some of them, I feel like maybe I should just spend to unbind and put them on the rental market because they're going to be rare. And if
Rare.
we
Yeah.
achieve the goal of bringing in a bunch of new players, some Kulu masterminds they'd be renting like hotcakes. But others, I just don't know what to do. Like some of them I have max gold foil, max regular foil, and I'm just sitting on both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have you not like tried to unlock any like gold foil legendaries to try to sell?
They're so expensive, man.
I
Yeah.
know,
I
right?
was going
Like,
to say, I have not because of the price.
yeah, it's interesting. Even with the so it's 125,000 DC. So even with the price of DC right now, what
$80,
are we at?
90
Like point oh
bucks.
seven, point oh six. It's like 80 some bucks, 85 bucks.
Yeah.
Um, that's I feel like what was the going rate even back when like Untamed and stuff was popular. Like going rate for a gold foil rewards card, legendary was what, like 50 bucks, 60 bucks.
The low end on wow, there's a gold foil cryptic for 70 bucks right now. That's the cheapest of Rebellion. But yeah, and that's about on par with I guess what these Chaos Legion gold foils are looking for. But um
But they're
Like a
I mean,
cane
that's the thing
seems to
that
be
they're
middle
Chaos
of the
Legion
pack.
Gold Foil rewards cards. They're not Rebellion Gold Foil, rewards cards. Like,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
that is true.
Um,
I don't know. Let's see here.
I just feel like I just feel like
Gin
the price
Bilchka,
point is
$24. So 3x.
okay. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I just feel like yeah,
I
Well,
think it's a
I mean,
question of what else you could do with that DEC and what value you place in that, in that one card. Do you believe that going ahead and unlocking it is going to be worth it? Or uh, would that amount of DEC be better served doing something else in the game, right? With
yeah,
me, I'm still looking, I know it's way off in the future, but I'm still looking towards land 2.0, and there's going to be a lot of incremental costs when that hits if you're a land holder. So with me, I've been buying up some DEC and stashing it for that specific purpose. So
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, the soulbound batch of Chaos Legion cards are going to be much more scarce because of that price. I was just trying to look at the total BCX, and unfortunately, I think Peak Monsters tally is counting the total BCX in game, not the BCX available and unbound.
mm-hmm.
But there are a lot more. Jin Bilchka was the biggest price that I looked at, and it was 2,800 total BCX. Soriel the Bale, for example, there's 3,200 BCX. But what of that? You have to consider that all 2,800 BCX of the Jin Bilchka can be listed and sold.
right.
Maybe it's 5% of Soriel the Bell that actually makes it to be unbound. So the scarcity is definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration when looking at the value of the card. But yeah, it's a gamble. I mean, you're essentially being asked to speculate on the team's ability to deliver those players at a future time, and we have the opportunity to gamble on a successful marketing push by unlocking at 10x now, in hopes that in 6 months from now, when the cost to unlock these cards is 20x, that you can turn around and either rent them at crazy high prices or sell them for a profit.
Yeah. Yeah, like so for example, I have a gold foil dust blight and I was looking at it today and there's only like one on the market and someone was trying to sell it for like $300, like 299. Yeah, it got me thinking, hey, if I could if that card sells, like what, why not? Why not do that? Or even try to, if I unlock it at 125 and I could sell it at 200 or 150 or something. I don't know.
Well, that's
I
one
don't
of the
know. I just
ones
don't
that
know
I
if people are
think
buying
is,
them.
I don't know, man. I feel like, there's a few Izzyar, Duskblight, Aves. I think those three, Kulu to some extent. Kulu's a great card. I just don't see it as often as I used to. But
Hmm.
Duskblight with Cryptic, Duskblight with Lorcus, both uh both of those summoners, Duskblight is pretty much a staple.
Yeah.
Um Izyar, of course. So there's a couple that I think would probably be worth the gamble on a gold foil unlock. I feel like the regular foil is very reasonably priced. 5K
Mhm.
DEC per BCX. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the gold foils. It's yeah, it's really tough
Well, yeah,
to
because I
do
actually, oh yeah, oh
the
I
math.
forgot. Mine is I have a 2 BCX of that gold foil.
So 250K.
Yeah, so that'd be a lot.
It's like $200,
Yeah.
190, 180. Oh
Um,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, because yeah, that's right. I forgot because I did combine those because yeah, I was using it. Yeah. to get that resurrect. Yeah, I feel like that was like one of my luckiest pulls of that was I got that at it was one of those ones where I got the pulled the gold foil and it pulled like the multiple copies of it too. So um, you know, I don't
Mm.
know. That's like the one card. If I was gonna do it, I feel like that would be the one I would sell. I just don't know. I don't want to unlock it and then be stuck with it.
Well, I mean, there is. I did set up the Shakedown Street channel in the TPG Discord. There's been some talk around swapping, and if I know Fat Jimmy is looking to max out some of his GoFoil stuff,
Yeah,
and
well, yeah, man, I'll check
he's
with him.
offering some trades. So, maybe if selling it isn't something that's enticing to you, but swapping it for some of other stuff of comparable value is worth it, then
Hmm.
I don't know. Well, what do you
Yeah,
guys think about
that'd be a lot
the
of
mini
it.
set? Let's shift gears and talk mini set. BD, let's kick it off with your thoughts, man. What do you want to see a mini set? Do you think we should see a mini set? Do you feel like it was a big surprise? Where's your head at with Rebellion
Well,
mini
I
set?
think it was a little bit of a surprise since they originally said they weren't going to do a mini set, but I think his reasoning is sound. I mean, they need to make a little money, right? So I think at this point, it'll be interesting how well it's accepted. I think that they would have to probably, I think this was discussed, but I think they would have to go in with low numbers so the value would be there. Like there's just a low amount of this mini set coming out. Get them while you can, otherwise they'll be gone. That kind of thing. And like I said, I don't know. I don't know about the reception. Obviously, the people on the top end are probably going to go after the meta changing cards as usual. Um, and a lot of people playing will probably buy a few packs, see where they stand on that. But as far as the number of rebellion packs that have went out, comparatively speaking, I don't know how we can expect people to buy a mini set if they're not buying the rebellion packs. So, I mean, unless they throw something spicy at us.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised. I think, yeah, I thought we were gonna get it. I thought, and then we were talking. We talked about this before that you kind of looked at the promo cards as kind of being the mini set, as sort of that was going to be the mini set, right? Is the promo
Yeah.
cards. And because otherwise it would just seem like there'd be way too many cards. So yeah, it'll be interesting, especially seeing all the stuff they did with these rewards cards, like all the different abilities they've just come out with. Um, what does the mini set look like? Yeah, I don't know how many. So you said bronze. I would want to follow up with you too. Like you say, you think they want to have like a low number. You should have like a low number, which I definitely agree with. But what do you think is good? Like, what do you think is, is it 500,000? Is it a million? They had that there's that depending on how many cards it is too, right? Like you have to have X amount of packs to get max copies. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, kind of the balance of how many cards they actually have in the set, and yeah, how many they would put out. I'm trying to think of how many. Do either of y'all recall how many they sold? Was it like 500,000 packs in the Rebellion pre-sale?
I
Close
don't
to it, I
remember.
think.
It was
It was
right
close to
around
it.
500,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
Do we know how many Rebellion packs have sold as opposed to been burned? I know they have how many
Yes, we
packs are
do.
remaining, but
Uh,
is that on
Available
Splinter cards or
2.8 million, circulating almost 77K, open 860K, burned 5.6 million.
Yeah.
we burned 5.6 million packs?
Yeah. So 50
Okay.
56% of the set is gone forever.
So we've sold almost a million.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's going to be a mini set, then yeah, what do you put it at like 500,000 and just hope it just sells out in the pre-sale or something?
Well, I was talking to I like the idea of putting it to a DAO vote. I think Azercon and Vugtis both kind of said, yeah, we're not really in favor of a mini set. Vugtis offered the idea of, instead of a mini set and instead of the core set that we've seen traditionally where it's just one big batch of cards released at once, instead breaking the core set into 2 or 3 or 4 smaller sets with each one having a very distinct theme. Like this first set is going to be built around the expose ability. So there's counters, there's cards that lean into expose. The next mini set is going to be built around, or the next phase of the core set is going to be built around, thorns or whatever. And kind of releasing them in batches over the course of 16 months or a year or something along those lines, which I think would be a really cool. It might be a big project for the team to undertake, but I feel like that would be a very cool and different way to go about delivering a core set, and just kind of constantly shaking up the meta.
That
Yeah,
sounds
I don't know.
interesting, but it also sounds like it would be a lot more work on the team. Um, I don't necessarily know, but I know that once you do your preparation, you do your testing for a small set. A lot of times, the work involved in a small set, you shift over to doing a full size set, and it might not be, say for instance, one full set was broken down into 4 smaller sets. It's going to be a lot more work on the team, I think. But with that, I'm not saying it's not a valid idea, right? But
Well, do you think that would kind of then start to get more into what your one of your issues is with Magic now is that they're coming out with updates every couple months? Would that kind of be like that, or since it is kind of more like a one core set broken down into smaller pieces, that wouldn't be as bad?
I still like just one set at a time. It's just it's easier to wrap your mind around, go into investment, because the other one of the other sides of this is the investment needed, because you get some. Okay, so theoretically, the game gets improved well. We get a bunch of people onboarded towards the fall and the spring from the marketing push, and then they start getting bombarded with new sets. Oh, you need to buy these, or you need to depend upon the rental market for these, and then people look at it and say, well, that's a lot of money. Do I want to spend all that? So I don't know. There's just different ways to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is. I think I would 100% be in favor of, I think Conflicts was a really big shakeup to how the traditional core set is delivered and how to retain value across, at least the life of the sale of the set. Um, and I would be in absolute favor of continuing to try and tinker with how our core sets delivered. So if we have a full 100 card set that's kind of released and made available for viewing and for testing, but we can only get access to 25 cards at a time through packs. I don't know. I'd love the team's creative. I'd love to see what they could come up with, and I like the idea of kind of constantly shifting the meta, and it could definitely introduce new storylines throughout the conflict of the next core set. Kind of set up different phases of an overall war that's kind of breaking out over the course of that year. And these are troops that are being summoned.
Yeah.
Maybe the first one is your cavalry, right? And the next one is your ranged and your magic. And yeah, I don't know. I think they could get creative with it and make some cool changes to keep us engaged and offer a compelling set that way.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a little bit more excited about variable cards they've talked about as going into, like, these would be the highly, really rare type of cards we were talking about that will be available, like we were talking about it in the glint shop. Say, for instance, a card gets released in the glint shop, you have a limited amount of time to buy it. If you didn't buy it, then it's gone. The next card's in its place, or something like that, something highly not something that you could just buy some packs, or obviously you could buy singles off the market, but something that rewards you for paying attention to the market and playing the game and things like that. And I like the idea of the storyline like that, where these kind of things, like you were talking about, could be woven into the story of the rebellion and what comes after the rebellion. That really excites me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, anything else kind of nipping you on the bud to get out on the air and discuss? Should we start wrapping up? We're coming up on the 2 hour mark here.
Yeah. Nothing really for me. I mean, I think the team is doing it. I think it's the changes Matt has instituted this year um, have been largely I've agreed with, and I think I'm just looking forward to the what constitutes their new player or slash player experience that should be coming about pretty soon here in the fall, leading up to a marketing push. And then I'd be further interested to see who they've got or who they plan to get to do the marketing, which is going to be very interesting to me from the standpoint of some of the things we've done in the past just didn't really work and were a big expenditure of money and a waste of money, in my opinion. And this is one of those things that you can't just use traditional marketing. So I'm interested in that, but I'm interested in the game. Smoothing out the entrance procedure to get people into the game, making it easier, especially for me as a YouTuber, to explain to new people, hey, this is how you play the game, and not having to stop every 5 minutes and go, go into a 30-minute discussion explaining a particular hurdle, so.
Oh, that's an exception to everything I've just said. Sorry. Yeah, I was playing a match today, and the one bug that continues to drive me absolutely crazy is the enraged bug. Where
Yeah.
as soon as
Yeah.
somebody goes enraged, the game starts
Yeah.
glitching, and magic is flying over here when it should be over here, and all of a sudden my monster falls off the board, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just like, what is going on? I got to reset this round. But yeah, it's still such a kind of nebulous concept, right? We've seen bits and pieces start to trickle into the game, but for the most part, we don't really have a hard and fast definition of what is within the umbrella of new player experience. And the last town hall, it did sound like Nate was fairly confident that whatever that is coming soon. And I would hope so. They've been working on it for 8 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while. Yeah. So
Have
sounds awesome.
any of you
Hopefully he
guys,
has like it's coming soon, and it's not like his idea of it is coming soon, right? It's like, no, we actually
Right.
have he's
have to make some compromise? Yeah.
yeah.
Um, it feels like it, and I wonder if you guys have kind of noticed the same thing. It feels like, and I think it was you, BD, that actually called it out. Like a lot of the titles of YouTube videos that you're seeing, a lot of the content that you're seeing on Peak D or Hive, the sentiment in the title is beginning to shift, and it feels like, for a long time it was, oh, SPS is a scam and Splinterlands
Yeah,
is
I saw that
snake
video
oil
too.
salesman. And yeah,
I believe it was after sound, but yeah. I think that the sentiment is changing a little bit. Of course, you've got still the Debbie Downers out there, but my line of thinking is if you're going to get out, get out. There's no reason to hang around the Discord and just continue to bash on people, right? But I think that I've seen the sentiment pick up a little bit. Obviously, I think that has to do with the value of SPS going up too. So we'll see.
Hep, have you picked
Nice.
up on any of that? Seen any of that?
I don't know, man. I feel like the last few things I've listened to or read are like stuff on the rewards cards and the price of the unlocking fee, and a lot of people were upset that that was high, and so I felt like there was definitely a big wave of negativity around that. So, um, yeah, that's kind of been like sort of not the last thing I've seen or the game, but like that left a strong impression on me. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's always there, right? It's always right within grasp, one
I
breath
guess
away.
my approach is I always talk about things that I don't like about the game, but I try to balance out my videos by backing those up with things that I do think that are going right. So I don't. I went through a phase. I guess I went through several months where it seems like everything I was talking about was just negative, and I just got tired of it. And it's not that I'm pushing the game or I'm making any money off doing this or anything like that. Um, I just got I don't want to say depressed, but I just got tired of being so negative. So I might say in a video, well, I didn't really like this, or I don't think this turned out the way they envisioned it. But then turn around and say something I did like, and try to balance it out.
Yeah.
Well, you got the bigger platform now, BD. Appreciate you doing so. So feeling, let's kind of wrap it up here. Feeling
I'm
the kind of tide and sentiment beginning to shift. Have either of you guys made any moves on speculating on DEC and or SPS?
I haven't. I mean, it's probably, whenever DEC is this low, it's historically been when people like Crypto Eater have, made a bunch of money off it because, the team is always going to try to get it to go back up. Um, but no, I mean, I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like I'm excited about these new rewards cards. I'm like happy playing the game still. Um, but just kind of where I'm at in the game, it's just kind of doesn't make sense for me to put money into it right now. And yeah, I'm happy with it as the game and as the gameplay that I get out of it. And even though I don't feel like I need to invest in cards, I'm thinking about waiting, like I said, waiting till the conflicts end and hopefully the price on Rebellion cards come down and putting some more money into it then. And yeah, I'm just not really, I'm not really concerned with the speculative or financial aspects of things like SPS and DEC. At this point, I'm just kind of like still focused more on the game and enjoying that. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been.
I'm not a back the truck up kind of guy, although but with that said, I'm like the so slow and steady guy. And all along the process, I guess there was like a six there where I didn't buy a whole bunch, but I just do a little bit at a time on a weekly basis, and I've been getting SPS. And well, the SPS is primarily I'm trying to get up to 100K in game staked from the game perspective, right? But the DEC I'm buying a little bit at a time, partially because it's low and I see the need in the future to use it on my land. So,
Hmm.
but
Cool.
I haven't been backing up the truck. I've just been buying
Yeah.
a little bit at a time.
I'm sure there'll be at some point where I'll be kicking myself for not having bought more DEC for land and stuff when it's this low. So, but that's always the case. I found that's always the case, no matter what I do. So I just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We have seen quite a few people backing up the truck. Azurcon was talking about it, buying a couple more million, and Vugtis has pretty much doubled his stake in the last few months. upwards of, I think, 40 million at this point. Meanwhile, I've been backing up the golf cart. I did just pass 300K, which, a year ago I never ever thought I would be
Yes, yeah.
sniffing. But
Yeah, I'm super close to 100K. So, yeah, I think I'll get that in a couple weeks. I think I'm at
sweet.
like 90, 98 and change. And probably I'm trying to think if, most of that at this point is just from game earnings.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I actually purchase, whether, but I think I might be like at half and half now, pretty much, or something like that. Or maybe even like 60, maybe even like 60% of it's from just playing, these last couple years, which is great. It's really cool. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really removed any. All the SPS I've earned in game has just continually been, staked.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, BD, we kind of wrapped up the first attempt at an episode with you talking about your beer endeavors. Have you and I've heard you talk
That's
about
right.
your Bronzedragon Brewery days a little bit on your own streams. Have you since changed your tune and fired up the brewery again since you were granted the surly
uh,
drunk? I thought that was kind of
I
some
do.
funny serendipity
I
there.
I do want a surly drunk. I have not drawn one yet, but I do want one. Um, I haven't brewed lately, to tell you the truth. I found that in my life, I'm in my 50s now, but in my life, I brewed a lot in my 20s and 30s, partially because I lived in a different area of the country and I was in with a different brewing club, and we did a lot of charity shows and stuff like that. So I was brewing, 10 gallons at a time to go out and serve for charity. And I was also drinking more beer at that time. And as I've gotten older, it gets a little bit harder to keep that beer belly off. And so I'm making an effort. I drink higher quality beers and a lot less of them. But with that said, I have not brewed anything lately. I do have a mead in the planning stages for maybe the November timeframe, because I also make mead once in a while. The last mead I made was 3 years ago. The cost of making mead, if you're not familiar with mead, it's the oldest alcoholic beverage known to man. It's a wine made from honey, basically, and there's variations with fruits and spices and stuff like that. But the TLDR is that it's gotten increasingly expensive to brew mead because honey has gone through the roof in price due to the blight and the amount of bees across the world going down by like some 50-60%. So we have so plant wildflowers if you have space in your yard. It's good for the bees. But with that said, I do have that in the works, but the price has gone way up for brewing that.
Yeah, I like that little segue out of here is plant wildflowers. That's
There you
the
go.
the takeaway here. Nice.
Yep.
Cool. Do you have a name for your mead? Does it change with the each batch, or is it a seasonal thing? It sounds like you would
No,
drink
it's
mead
just Bronze
as
Dragon mead. It's just Bronze
lunch dragon
Dragon
mead.
mead, and each mead I make, we do a special label for it, and I usually come up with a different quote from a popular book to put on the label. But the good part about it is once you bottle it up, it's good for
Good
almost
forever.
infinite.
What
Got to
was the
do
last quote
surly
from
drunk
last year?
mead, man.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Cool. All right, gentlemen. Well,
Good.
as always, fun hanging out. A lot of good stuff happening. I think in general, everybody's feeling positive. It certainly does feel like the sentiment is starting to shift a little bit. And to your point, BD, it helps with prices. I don't know if prices are helping sentiment, sentiment's helping pricing. It's all wrapped up, chicken before the egg or whatever. But it's an exciting time nonetheless. Good things are happening, and hopefully better things are to come in the future for us.
Yep.
Nice.
Cool.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
glad we could make it happen. Happy, you want to take us home, man?
Yeah. Oh, so
Anything
now I
else?
have to do what's that? Oh no, I have nothing
What?
else to say. I thought you wanted me to do the outro. I was like, wait, you always do that
Well,
part. You can't
let's
just
mix
like
it
look
up,
it over.
man. Let's mix it up. Go for it.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us here. Another great episode. Look forward to talk to you guys soon. You have been joining us on
People's Guild.